Hello everyone, welcome back to the Plunder Den. In this week's episode, we're going to be building some simple winter scatter terrain. So this is another extension to the winter projects we've already been doing. We did the frost-covered fortification in the last episode, and the episode before that we did winter forest scene. So these are some simpler pieces. And I want to use this terrain piece as our terrain flash challenge. So as part of the pirate paint-offs, the great pirate paint-off that Blood and Pigment holds, I'll put a link down to their channel in the description, and you can see in there how you can get involved. But this is, if you, essentially we're going to ask you to recreate at least 2 of these pieces. I built 4 of these scatter bits, and just build 2 of them and have them submitted by the end of February. February 28th. And there'll be a bit of a competition to see, wins the best submission, and there'll be some kind of terrain prize that I'm going to build for you. But I do encourage you to go on there and check out all the other things that they offer. They have other like parts of the painting competition. Maybe you don't want to do the terrain aspect of it. Maybe you want to paint miniatures. But go down to their site and check it out and see how you can get involved in the Great Pirate Paint-Off. So that aside, for people that are not involved in it, this is a great winter terrain, scatter terrain that can be used for virtually any game. This could be used for bolt action. This could be used for Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, whatever you want to use it for. It's just simple winter scatter terrain. So let's just take a look at it. I guess that's the best way to describe it here, is just to take a look at these pieces. And really, they're just kind of like, stones and just some dead shrubbery, trees, and just a light frosting of snow, which kind of matches the other pieces we've already built. So I'll take a look here, if you can see that. That's one of the pieces. Here's another one. And I just kind of did different shapes. There's some circle ones, there's kind of the rectangle shapes. Just different variants. It's kind of nice to have on the battlefield, all these different shapes. This one's more elongated. Let's see if we can get a better, closer look. And I kind of made it the rock more like, as you would see, like sediments. Like this used to be an old ancient riverbed, and I kind of wanted to capture that in these stones. I can just see a whole battlefield, actually, of these kind of stones, like an old ancient riverbed would be really cool. Maybe mixed in with some swamp and other stuff. I got some ideas. I want to do some swamp terrain in the future. We're probably going to do something related to that. But we'll stick with the snow right now for now. But anyway, so these are the 4 pieces that we're going to be building. Real simple, mostly just foam. Just a few different stuff I got from the dollar store. Really cheap, simple, easy way to enhance your battlefield. Give it a really good, realistic looking winter rocky terrain. All right, so if you guys like what we're doing here in the Plunder Den, make sure you smash that like button and consider subscribing to the Plunder Den and get first-hand information when I start these kind of projects. All right, everyone, let's get down to the table. Let's start doing some painting, and let's start doing some crafting. Okay, so we're going to go over some of the items I used for this project. I got some regular sand, and I got some black stone and some white sand. Now, these are all items that I got at Michael's. They sell them in the, they have a decorative vase section where you can put all these different layers of stones in there. But the white sand works great for a snow feature. So I used all 3 of these in this project. So then we got some dollar store decorative green moss. It's $1.50 a bag. I usually just use some scissors and cut them up really fine, and it works great for putting some plant life on your stones. Then we got insulation foam that we're going to use for our big rocks. And then that broom end I got from the dollar store. These are like $3 for a broom end. I'm going to keep clipping the ends off there and use them for like a dead bush or some kind of plant life. And of course, dollar store foam board. So I started off as I always do. I cut a few bases out that I thought would be appropriate for this terrain. One elongated one, and the rest are kind of rounded. These are not going to be pieces that you play through just to play around, so this would be fine. And then I'll start off by sealing them all in with black craft paint. and just so you don't get any warping. Once you've done this, you're good to go. You can build on top of it. Again, you can use hardboard if you want. I just find it's a little harder to cut that. This is a lot easier. You can just cut with with your knife or scissors or whatever, right? Real super easy to cut foam board. So I started off by cutting some basic shapes out of the insulation foam. This is 1 inch thick insulation foam, just so you guys know. And then I have some smaller pieces because I want to make some smaller stones as well. So kind of a center stone and a few smaller stones around. So I decided I'm going to cut one of these in real time for you guys to show you how I put texture in them and give them that riverbed look to it. And these are the tools that I use: tinfoil balls, sandpaper, and we got our OFA knife and a pencil. Now, the only thing missing from this is your safety gloves. So don't be like me and not wear your safety gloves. Even though I didn't cut myself doing this project, I easily could have. That OFA knife is extremely sharp. And that's kind of why I like to use it. But definitely wear your safety gloves. Don't follow my example here. I have no idea why I didn't put them on when I filmed this. But I'm just reminding you now that you should work safe. Not like me. Anyway, so I started off by essentially just, I'm kind of making it a more round shape. So to get some of the sharp edges off of it, I'm just, carving the edges out all the way around. And I kind of just keep working it, and I'm leaning more to the top. You can see I'm picking it off here. When you see a riverbed stone like that and it has different layers, they break off like that. They break off in layers. So I want to capture that on the top. So it's kind of like those extra details that really bring your stone alive, that looks like you would see in nature, right? And something that's real. So just a little extra step that you could do there to make the top look a little more realistic. So then I'm going to go around and keep carving here. And I decided I'm going to do a couple of notches in it, because I don't want it to be a perfect round shape or oval. So I'm going to cut little notches out of it. The other thing good about cutting notches out of it is you got a place to stand your little dead bushes in, and there's a place that you can glue them to. Because it has that broom end, obviously there's no end on it. I guess I suppose I could make it. You can glue the bottoms together, but it's a lot easier just to glue the rock here and just stick it to that. So now we're going to do the layers on the side. I like to use the longer knife. You could use a smaller hobby knife, but it's a little harder to get the straight lines like I'm doing with the OFA knife here. And you want it to go all the way the length of the stone, right? So all the way around, you should have multiple different layers. Now, of course, I cross-hatch a few times and go into a few different directions. Things get chipped and rocked and broken over the centuries, but essentially I just wanted to capture those layers. That gives it that real riverbed look, the ancient sea bed. Up here in Canada, I used to live in Drumheller, and they have a lot of these kind of stones around there. It used to be an ancient ocean bed there, so it's really cool. They have a lot of cool features in there. It's kind of like a mini Grand Canyon, really. And this is kind of what the stones look like. So I kind of wanted to capture that image in these stones. Just give a little more interest in the basic stone. I've cut other stones before where it's just, they're kind of rounded shaped, and I kind of just stick them in the coffee tin and shake them around. Well, this one requires no coffee tin work. No shaking of the stones in coffee tin. We're just going to hack it up with our knife here and use that sandpaper and tinfoil ball, and we're going to do everything we need to do with those things. So I keep working. I don't want to make sure I don't miss any spots, so I keep going around and around and around this piece and make sure I got all those lines in there. And it's okay if it breaks off like that. That's when you've kind of reached where you should be. And then I just use a tinfoil ball here and kind of break off some of those pieces. And of course, we're going to texture the top so it doesn't look smooth like the insulation foam. And that's why I like to use insulation foam. Like, you can really put texture into it with a tinfoil ball. And this is essentially what you would do if you threw it in a coffee tin with a bunch of stones in it. But even with like a big piece like this, you still would have to use a tinfoil ball. It looks like I just lost my tinfoil ball. Then you go back with some sandpaper, just smooth it out, and you kind of go back and forth, really, to just kind of get to a point where it looks the way you want to. So then I come back with a pencil and kind of make some of the grooves a little deeper and darker. And sometimes when you see layers like that, some layers are different depending on the year or the century it was in. There could be more dark areas and more larger areas. Maybe there's more rock growth in some time periods. So I wanted to capture that with the pencil work. And then also I made some grooves on the top, or cracks on the top of the stone. Some of these cracks would carry up over to the top. And again, all these little extra details really make your rock look realistic, right? These are things that you would see on a real stone. Again, hit the tinfoil ball again, and I just reworking it until I'm happy with the overall look of it. So we're getting pretty close here, just deciding if it's enough of the texture on it. So it looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. Decided I wanted to do another groove on the top. There's a ripped up piece. These are, like I said, extra time. And again, wear your gloves. See what I just did? Almost got myself. Yeah, don't do that. Make sure you wear your gloves. All right, so we're almost done here. Before I cut my hand off, and really, you just wear the glove on the one hand that you're holding the foam in, really, because sometimes it's harder to maneuver your knife if you're wearing a safety glove on, right? I don't know why I wasn't thinking about wearing it, but anyways. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that finished result. That looks like a pretty convincing stone. So we're going to do that 4 times, and then we're going to do the smaller ones. Now, the smaller ones are a little trickier. I did it the same way. Again, be extra careful because they're tiny. You could maybe do that with a hobby knife. Just make sure the blade's long enough to go the lengths of the stone. So I'm just kind of showing you what it looks like. Another thing I want to mention is try to carve on the side that doesn't have the print on the foam. Like you can sand it off, but it's kind of a pain. Some of them are actually grooved in pretty good on some of that insulation foam. So it's best to just have that on the bottom and just glue it to the piece and you don't even see it anyways, right? So I'm just illustrating to use some tacky glue and we're going to glue them. I was happy with the arrangement I had. And, I let it dry for about 30 minutes. And tacky glue glues on pretty good. And you can see these are all stuck on nice. And now I'm going to add some texture to the base. Now to make this a little easier, because this is a flash challenge, I'm not going to use drywall compound. I'm not going to use that element. So we're going to have to fill in the extra space with stones. So I'm going to do a mixture of these little black stones and some regular sand. Then we're going to use that for our filler around these rocks. And of course, white tacky glue to put on the piece here. So I'm going to show you in a little bit of stages here, kind of how I do it. And so you can see how I apply the glue. Now, I wanted to illustrate how much glue I put on here. Put a generous amount on there. Put lots on there. And initially, I mixed the two together, the sand and the black stone, and I kind of just pour that onto the space and fills it in that way. But when it gets to this point, I also, you're going to have some gaps. So then I add the sand on its own on there just to make sure I fill in all the gaps. You could actually just put the black stones on first and then put the sand on. Any which way you want it. It worked fine. So this is the broom end. Easy way to make dead trees or dead bushes or whatever. Just, cut this off into different areas. I'm contemplating doing maybe a thatch roof with this. It might work. I know it'd probably be some time consuming, but I bet you it would look pretty good. So you can see how that's why I left those grooves in the stones. So now you got a place to glue these, dead bushes in, or dead trees here, or whatever they are. Dead shrubbery. They're killed by the winter frost. And we're going to glue them in there. So right now, it looks like what it is. But once we paint it, we'll seal that in good. So just to keep all those big heavy stones down, I recommend we'll do some Mod Podge this time. So we're going to do a 50-50 mix. Half black paint, half Mod Podge. Mix that slurry together, and you're going to have a really super durable finish on this. So then I covered everything. Even it was tricky to do the bushes, but when you get that thick paint on there, that's where you get that looks like dead branches and stuff, and it's perfect for this winter terrain that we're doing, and ideal for that. So I'm just illustrating, it's hard as a rock now. Like, nothing's going anywhere now. So now it's really good to do my vigorous paint job on here I like to do. So I got my big brush, some real brown, and we're going to do our undertones that I always do. And really, you guys have seen me do it on my stone tutorials on how to paint stone. It's the same technique. I'm just going through the same colors. Bark brown. Again, I use these same colors on every piece. just so the undertones all match on all my terrain. So like again, I mentioned before, it all looks like it's part of the same world, even winter terrain. So here we go. We got all our pieces here are done with the bark brown. That's the second color that I used. It's a lighter brown. I'm just kind of illustrating. I hit the bushes there and as well. And we're just going to keep adding layers of paint on here to add some depth to our stone. Hit the Pablo. This is just a brighter kind of an orange color, but it still sits in the earth tones, especially when you mix it with the other two browns. You get a nice highlighted color, which is good, some undertones on your stones, right? So you can see I kind of just painted everything. So this is camel, and another color that I use to add the basic layers onto my stone. And I'm switching to the smaller brush now. And mainly because I don't want to have a ton of color on there. I still want to keep all those good colors I just put on there, but I want to lighten the whole piece with this camel. And there's a lot of stone on here. Virtually the whole thing is stone. I even hit some of the plant life too as well, just to lighten it up a little bit. Mainly because we were going to eventually paint them white, so it looks like there's frost on them, right? So, but we're going to slowly lighten them up as we go with a little bit of camel. But just a little more strategic about how we're putting the color on. So that's why I kind of stopped here to show you how I apply the paint. And yeah, it's a little time consuming. Really, actually, it took me these 3 pieces. Once I put the camera down and I wasn't working with the camera, it took about 30 minutes to do all 4. And I just sat there and slowly added the camel to it till I was happy that it was light enough to add other colors to the top of it. Now, if you lighten it up like this and you still got a lot of your undertones, it works great for washes, speed paints, all those other things that I like to use. Now, if you don't want to use those expensive washes and stuff, and really I don't use a lot. I've done several projects with the same bottles, but you can just follow the stone painting tutorial video I have, and I have craft paint substitutes that you could use instead of these washes and stuff. So we got Agrax, Earth Shader, Serpent, Serpia, and we got Skeleton Horde. That's your grunge team. Dirty up things. And then I like this Greyland Gray. Add little spots in the stones where you have a little bit gray patches in there. And that's really kind of hit all the stone areas around the rocks in the bottom. This Pallid Bone is also a good one to use. I also use Drake Tooth and Mummy Robe to do the final highlights. So we're going to kind of add all those washes first before we add those highlights on. So I'll show you what it looks like after I've done that. So you can see you got some grays in there, some browns, some grunge from the Agrax Earth Shader. It really got a nice contrasting looking stones. And, I'm pretty happy with this. If I just added some flocking and stuff like that, you could call this done. You wouldn't have to go any further. But we were doing winter terrain, so we got to go a couple more layers. So, and you hit this highlight with these Drake Tooth and Mummy Robe. I usually start with the Drake Tooth first. It's a little bit darker. It's got kind of more of a greeny color a little bit to it. And then the Mummy Robe next. And you can see I just highlighted. And it really makes the stones pop now. But it's really kind of leaning more to the winter. We're adding our layers to make it lean more to the winter side, right? So I'm just going to show you a little bit how I apply the paint. As you can see, my brush is ratty, but this is what I use these little brushes for, is just this. And I know some people, you could use a makeup brush. Whatever works for you for dry brushing is totally fine. I like to do it with a smaller brush because I like to just hit little key spots. And if you do it with a makeup brush, you're kind of hitting a large area at the same time, which is, if you want that'll work great. But I actually, if I'm just doing these small strategic spots, I just use a small brush. And if you get too clumpy, you can see my one finger, it's got white paint. If I feel I put too much paint somewhere, I usually just grab it and rub it into the piece. I just spread it around, and that usually works pretty good if you hit it fast enough. But I don't recommend you do that if you don't have to, but sometimes you got to. Sometimes you put too much paint on there. But it's okay. Maybe it's lighter in that spot, right? So now we're going to go to that moss green. Now I've pre-cut this all with, I just used a pair of scissors and cut it until it's really fine like this. And then it's great for applying. So then I got my just white tacky glue and just put blobs all over the rock area where I thought some floral areas would grow. And really I just put that piece over top of that bucket of flocking and stick it on there. And that's pretty much it. You got a nice little, plant life undertone. You still got your dead bushes, but you got some moss on there. And now we're going to add the snow feature. So again, I just used my tacky glue, hit some spots on top of the stones because that's where some of the sand, not the sand, well, it is sand, the snow would be, but also around the edges of the bottom. And really, I just poured it over top. And I usually just do a quick dump, get all the loose stuff off, and then let it sit there for a while. And after it dries for a while, you see what's left on there. That's is usually stuck pretty good. You can see I'm picking at it, and it's on there really good as well. Now I decided to move to using white craft paint to highlight. So once that stuff dries, so that's actually the next day, I let it dry for an entire day. And it gets a little translucent, like you can see through it, which actually kind of looks good for kind of icy snow, actually. But I wanted to highlight it some more and make it more apparent. So I'm just using my small brush again, and I'm kind of like just slightly dry brushing the sand texture that I put on there. So really you just need the texture there. So when you add the white paint to it, it highlights it and it looks like snow. And, I'm going to slightly touch some of these bushes here, and definitely these little twigs and stones, and just highlight everything, because there would be a layer of frost on absolutely everything, and a little bit of snow, but I don't want to cover all the stuff down below, because you want to be able to see some of it. It's a light snow. It's not a giant snowstorm, and it's completely covered. All right, so after that's all done, these are the finished product. I kind of set up a blood and crowns table here where I have my fortifications and these little scatter bits here. You can see the scale of them, so just enough to hide behind and a block line of sight. I got some knights here. It's assaulting the fort that I got built in the last episode, and I just kind of wanted to show you them on the battlefield and what it looks like. And they're a great piece. You can hide behind it and work around. It's an obstacle. Just something to add up, spruce up your table, so you have more than just winter trees. You got some like rock arrangements. I can see a whole battlefield with just that. All right, so that's pretty much it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.